Okay, so you guys wanted a deep dive into Coldplay's Yellow. And I have to admit, when I first saw this one come across, I thought, really? What more is there to say? I mean, we all know Yellow. It's instantly recognizable. It's like the go-to for romantic moments, montages. But then I really started digging into the backstory, and let me tell you, this song has some serious hidden depths.
And it's fascinating how a song can really take on a life of its own, kind of separate from its origins.
Totally.
Like you go into it with certain assumptions.
Oh, 100%. Like, I always assumed Yellow was a classic love song, all about that, like, heart-fluttering, can't live without you feeling.
Which is how it's used a lot.
Yeah.
Right, for sure. But Chris Martin himself has actually said that the lyrics are not about romantic love at all.
Get out. Okay, so now I need to know, what did he say it was about then?
He described it as more a feeling of deep admiration, even like devotion, but not necessarily in a romantic sense.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it could be for a friend, a mentor, anyone that you just like really hold in high regard.
Wow, that's really interesting because it totally changes how you hear those lyrics. Because then suddenly it's not just about romance, it's about like this all-encompassing respect and awe you feel for someone who, truly inspires you.
Exactly. Yeah, it adds like a whole other layer to like those grand gestures, wanting to do anything for this person. It's not just about like I'm head over heels. It's like I recognize something really special in you.
I'm hooked already, and we're just getting started, people. So how does a song about profound admiration, like, how does it end up sounding so, well, romantic?
Right.
Let's talk origins.
Okay, so picture this. Rockfield Studios, rural Wales.
Wait, the same place Queen recorded Bohemian Rhapsody. Okay, now those are some good vibes.
Exactly. So Coldplay's there working on their debut album, Parachutes, and one night, they're looking up at this clear, star-filled sky.
Super poetic. I can practically see it now.
And their producer, Ken Nelson, just casually says, "Look at the stars, lads."
Huh.
Simple observation, right?
Wow. And that was it. That sparked the entire song.
It clearly struck a chord. Chris Martin has said he went off and wrote the entire lyrics for Yellow in like 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Get out. No way. For like what became this globally recognized anthem, 10 minutes? Okay, there has to be more to the story.
Well, it does, highlight just how unpredictable creativity is, right?
Yeah.
You never know when or where inspiration will strike.
Yeah.
But you're right, there's always more to the story. For example, Yellow wasn't even planned as a single.
Really?
Especially not in the UK.
I had no idea. What were their singles leading up to Yellow then?
They had Brothers and Sisters and Shiver already out in the UK.
Okay.
Those charted, but nothing like what Yellow would become.
Right. So how did they decide to go with Yellow, especially for like their US debut? That seems like kind of a risky move.
It was a very different approach to kind of like breaking into the US market back
fair.
then. Remember, they'd already like built up momentum in the UK with those earlier releases, but they were essentially starting from scratch in America.
Right. So they were strategic about it.
Absolutely.
I like it.
Especially when you contrast it to what another like big British band at the time was doing, right? They went all in on this big U.S. media blitz, trying to force their way onto the scene. Didn't really work. Coldplay, on the other hand, they kind of let Yellow and the album build buzz more organically.
Fascinating. So they were playing the long game, like let the music speak for itself, build a fan base, slowly but surely.
Precisely. Yellow wasn't like this instant chart topper in the U.S., but its popularity grew steadily, fueled by radio play, word of mouth, and those like incredibly moving live performances they were becoming known for.
Right. Okay, but let's rewind a little bit because, we're talking about this iconic title, Yellow. Did it almost have a different name?
Funny you should ask. So the story goes that Chris Martin was putting like the finishing touches on the song, and when it came time to like solidify that title, he just looked around for inspiration. Whatever was closest, that was it.
No way. Okay, now I'm really curious because what could possibly be so inspiring that it ends up like the name of this legendary song?
The UK telephone directory. The Yellow Pages.
You were kidding. That's too funny. From such humble beginnings to a global phenomenon. I love it.
Right. Makes you wonder what everyday things we overlook that might hold like unexpected creative potential.
Maybe we should all start looking at phone books for inspiration.
Right.
Maybe not the worst idea. But Yellow definitely has a better ring to it, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
It's simple, it's evocative, and it looks pretty great on a spinning globe, as we all know.
Speaking of that iconic Parachutes album cover.
You mean the one with the yellow globe?
Yeah.
hard to forget.
Well, Chris Martin actually took that photo himself. Disposable camera, no less. No fancy equipment. Just a striking image and a good eye.
I love that. It really speaks to, like, the band's DIY ethos in those early days.
Totally.
And that glow became a bit of a recurring motif, didn't it?
Absolutely. You can spot it in the background of their Shiver and Don't Panic videos, too.
See, this is what I'm talking about. You pick up on these little details when you do a deep dive. Okay, this is already blowing my mind. We've got deep admiration, starry skies, phone books, a globe-trotting yellow mascot. What's next?
Well, we can't forget about Chris Martin's incredibly distinctive, like, vocal style.
Right.
That raw emotional delivery is like a huge part of what makes Yellow so powerful. And it turns out he got some, like, pretty pivotal advice early on that shaped his approach to singing.
Okay, now you have to tell me who was Coldplay's, like, secret vocal coach. Don't leave me hanging.
None other than Michael Stipe of R.E.M.
No way. That's amazing. What did Michael Stipe tell him? Spill the tea?
He basically told him to keep it simple. Yep. Apparently, Chris Martin used to change up the melody of Yellow, like when they were performing it live.
I could see that, yeah. Because it does have that raw emotional energy that makes you kind of want to play around with it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I trust Michael Stipe's judgment for sure.
As you should. And Chris Martin clearly did too, because Stipe told him, stop doing that. People want to hear the songs the way they know them.
Interesting. So it's about honoring the connection that listeners have built with a song, that sense of familiarity.
Exactly. And from then on, Chris Martin started singing all their songs in a much more straightforward way, letting the emotion come through in the delivery rather than, like, vocal acrobatics.
Wow. Talk about a sliding doors moment. Who knows what Coldplay's sound would be like today if it wasn't for that advice from Michael Stipe.
It's true. Sometimes the smallest piece of advice
Literally
can have a huge impact. But speaking of impact, there's another element of Yellow we should dive into, the music video.
Oh, yes. The one with Chris Martin walking along the beach.
Yeah.
Such a simple concept, yet so effective. What is the story there?
Well, buckle up, because the Yellow music video has a story that's both heartbreaking and incredibly inspiring. It's funny you should mention, like, the simplicity of the video, because the original concept was actually, it was going to be much bigger and brighter.
Okay.
More like that summery vibe.
Okay.
Imagine, like, the whole band walking along a sunny beach, surrounded by people, like, enjoying themselves.
Oh, wow. I can see it. So what happened? Why the change?
So tragedy struck right before the shoot.
Oh, no.
Will Champion, the drummer, he lost his mother.
Oh, that's awful.
Devastating time for the band, obviously. Yeah. And, the crew, the extras, everything was already booked. So they considered postponing.
But sometimes the show must go on, as they say.
Exactly. And in a way, continuing with the shoot became this way to kind of honor Will's mother. So they simplified the concept. It ended up being just Chris Martin walking along the beach. And it was actually raining that day.
Wow. You would never know any of that just from watching the video. It takes on a whole other level of meaning, knowing what was happening behind the scenes. That rain, the solitary figure, it becomes about, like, resilience in the face of loss.
Absolutely. And to add another layer, the band dedicated the entire Parachutes album to Will's mother.
That's so touching. It's amazing how those personal tragedies, like, they can infuse art with such depth and meaning, Okay, I have to ask because, we're really getting into the nitty-gritty here. Is it true there's, like, unseen footage from that original video concept kind of floating around out there?
You're well informed. Yeah, a snippet of that sunnier, more populated video concept actually did surface online recently.
Oh, wow. I bet that's fascinating to see, like, what might have been. But, even though it wasn't the original vision, that rain-soaked solitary walk, it's so iconic now. It's hard to imagine Yellow with any other video at this point.
It's true. Sometimes those unexpected turns lead to something even more powerful. And speaking of unexpected, the song itself almost didn't sound the way it does.
Okay.
The band initially hated the mix they got back from the studio.
No way. Seriously, what didn't they like about it?
So they were recording other tracks for the album in England, but Yellow was being mixed in New York. And when they got the final version back, it wasn't right.
So what did they do?
They hopped on a plane to New York.
No way.
And oversaw the mixing themselves.
Wow, talk about dedicated. They knew what they wanted, and a little thing like the Atlantic Ocean wasn't going to stop them.
Exactly. And that commitment to their vision extended, like, beyond just the sound. Coldplay has always been very, protective of their music, especially when it comes to commercial use.
Oh, yeah. Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, they famously turned down a multi-million-dollar offer from Gatorade.
Get out.
They wanted to use yellow in an ad campaign.
Wow. I guess some things really are more important than money. It's admirable they stuck to their guns, even with that kind of payout on the table.
It shows a real integrity, a desire to let the music speak for itself rather than being used to, just sell something.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean Yellow hasn't had this really rich life outside of Coldplay's own albums.
Right.
It's been featured in some really interesting ways over the years.
Oh, I bet. Fill me in. What are some of the most memorable placements?
One that stands out is its use in the movie Crazy Rich Asians.
Okay.
It plays this really pivotal role in a key scene.
Yeah, I love that movie. I totally missed that Yellow was in it. That's a great spot.
Yeah.
Okay, so was it a no-brainer to get the song cleared for the film?
Actually, no.
Yeah.
Coldplay was initially hesitant to have it included.
Really? Why is that?
Well, we don't know all the details, but director John M. Chu, he was so determined to have Yellow in his film that he took a chance. He wrote the band a heartfelt letter.
Okay, now that's a power move. What did he say in the letter?
He basically explained, his own personal connection he felt to Yellow, how much the song meant to him, and how it tied into the film's themes.
Wow.
He even talked about how he had been bullied as a kid because his last name, Chu, could be mispronounced as Chew, like the color yellow in Mandarin.
Wow. That's really powerful. So did Coldplay change their minds?
They did.
Okay.
John M. Chu's letter clearly resonated with them. They could see how deeply Yellow resonated with him and how much it meant to have it be part of his story.
You know what I love about that is it shows how much our own personal experiences can shape how we connect with art.
Right.
And sometimes when you're really passionate about something, a heartfelt plea, it can make all the difference.
Totally.
But we're talking about Yellow having this almost universal appeal. Did everyone kind of get it right away?
Well, that brings us to another fascinating anecdote. This one involving none other than Steve Jobs.
Okay, now this I've got to hear. Steve Jobs and Coldplay. What's the connection?
So back in 2001, Coldplay actually played Yellow for Steve Jobs personally.
No way. A private concert for the Apple mastermind himself. I wonder if they got to use those colorful iMacs as instruments.
Huh. Well, according to Chris Martin, Jobs wasn't exactly blown away.
Wait, are you telling me Steve Jobs, didn't immediately recognize Yellow's brilliance?
Not quite. So Chris Martin has said that Jobs told them it was,
Uh-oh.
not so good. He basically said it was ST and that they'd never make it.
Ouch. Talk about a tough crowd. I can't even imagine getting that feedback from, Steve Jobs. I think I would just crawl under a rock and never come out.
Right. But here's the kicker. Years later, after Coldplay had become, global superstars, they were invited to perform at a tribute concert for Steve Jobs after he passed away.
Wow. Talk about a full circle moment. What did they play? Did they even play Yellow after that initial reaction?
They did. Mm-hmm. And right before launching into it, Chris Martin actually shared that story about Jobs' initial reaction with the audience. He wasn't afraid to poke a little fun at the situation.
Oh, that is amazing. It takes a special kind of confidence, I think, to be able to publicly joke about a time when Steve Jobs told you your music was terrible.
Right. It really speaks to, I think, their ability to just not take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
But all jokes aside, Yellow really has left its mark on music history.
That's an understatement. We're talking countless covers, countless films and TV shows have used it, Even inspiring viral trends online. Yellow has truly taken on a life of its own.
It's true. It's become bigger than just a song. It transcends generations, cultures.
So why do you think that is? What is it about Yellow that makes it so enduring? Why has it resonated with so many people for so long?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like any great piece of art. It's complex. But, if you were to ask me, I think there's something about the simplicity of it. The melody is catchy, the lyrics are relatable, and it oozes pure emotion. There's a rawness there, an honesty, I think, that people they really connect with.
It's true. It's like a warm hug in musical form. Right. But, it is also so much more than just a feel-good anthem, too.
Exactly. Yellow has this incredible ability to evoke so many different emotions too.
Yeah.
You could be joyful, melancholic, hopeful, heartbreaking, all at the same time.
It's like a musical chameleon, adapting to your mood.
Yes. And then you think about like the timing of it all too.
Yeah.
Yellow was released at a time when the music scene was very different.
Right.
New metal, like rap rock, that was everywhere.
Right. Think like Limp Bizkit, Korn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Coldplay offered this like really refreshing alternative, something real, something that spoke to, I think, a deeper longing.
Yeah. It's also just a really, really good song.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to see like its recent resurgence on the charts too.
Yeah. Do you think that's just nostalgia or is there something more to it, you think?
It's hard to say for sure, but I think Yellow just has this like timeless quality that continues to draw people in. I mean, recent pop culture moments, like we talked about Crazy Rich Asians, and even like its popularity on social media have definitely played a part, though.
Right. The TikTok generation is discovering Yellow, but it really speaks to Coldplay's, like, staying power. They've managed to remain relevant for over 2 decades now.
You really have. They've earned their place in music history.
They really have.
Um,
It makes you wonder, though, do you think Yellow would have had the same impact if it had been released today? In the age of, like, streaming and, you know what I mean, short attention spans.
that is such an interesting question. I
Yeah.
mean, it's hard to imagine a world now where you don't immediately associate those opening chords with, well, everything.
It's true. It's become so ingrained in our, like, collective consciousness now. I think about, like, how we consume music now. It is so different. Back in 2000, you heard a song on the radio, you liked it, you went out and bought the CD. Now it's all about streaming, playlists, algorithms.
And with those algorithms, sometimes really great music does get lost in the shuffle.
Totally.
Right. So it makes you wonder, would Yellow have been able to cut through all that noise? Or would its simplicity have actually worked in its favor? Maybe it would have been this breath of fresh air in a sea of like overly produced tracks.
It's so hard to say, but one thing's for sure, we cannot deny the impact that it's had and continues to have on music lovers everywhere.
I completely agree. This has been quite the deep dive, wouldn't you say?
It really has.
We've gone from like starry skies to the Yellow Pages to Steve Jobs and everything in between.
It really has. And it all started from like a simple request from you, our listeners. So remember, if a song written in 10 minutes, inspired by a phone book, and initially hated by Steve Jobs can have such a profound impact, what does that tell us about the unpredictable nature of creativity? What seemingly simple, even insignificant things are around you right now that hold the potential to become something extraordinary? It's something to think about. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll see you on our next deep dive.